and welcome to Vantagepoint's Financial Intelligence Series. Thank you for joining us as we unwrap this highly anticipated topic. We are a service and sales partner for SAP North America in financial planning, budgeting, consolidation, reporting, and analytics. Our thought leadership goal is to be the number one source in the industry for content and collaboration for all things enterprise performance management. We hope to bring clarity to an ever-evolving technology landscape by staying focused on the financial process that drives success for your organization. Enjoy the webinar.
To the cloud, and you can now gain a greater audience, whether they be non-financial or just even beyond folk who want to use Excel, so folk who want to use mobility, etc. The other thing we want to talk about is when do you use BPC and when should you use cloud analytics? Or in fact, when should you use both? And ultimately talk about a real-world case study, one of our clients, and then I'm going to drop in and do the demonstration. So I really want to cover this to give you some background, and then we'll drop into the actual product itself and do the demonstration of connecting BPC and cloud analytics. So the future of finance, as defined by SAP, is really leveraging the HANA Cloud Platform. And what that means is that core capabilities will be available to anybody using the HANA Cloud Platform, which consists of data modeling and connectivity, visualization, so a lot of strong BI functionality, collaboration and events, so people can interact easily with each other and natively within the product, advanced analytics, so going beyond just looking at data, but understanding root cause, and then ultimately auditing and monitoring for the GRC for governance, risk, and compliance. No matter which product on the cloud platform that you use, those will be the core functionality products that we provided. And then within those, the capabilities will be exploration and storyboards for your business intelligence. So I may not be a planner, but I may actually want to consume the data. That would be from the BI standpoint. There's also the planning, which does planning allocations, very strong allocation engine, leveraging the HANA platform. Predictive analytics to be released this year. In fact, we're expecting to be around the corner, where it's going to be released as a commercial product, where it's going to use the large volumes of data sitting in the HANA Cloud Platform that it can do forecasting, segmentation on predictive analytics, and then governance, risk, and compliance. We expect to have all those access and controls that come with a robust industrial strength application. And ultimately on top there is the SAP Digital Boardroom. And what that is taking the vast amounts of data sitting in the cloud and displaying it in such a way that the executives, the boardroom, in fact, would be using the product as an intuitive way to manage and look at the data and understand what's happening. So you don't have to implement all of this. You don't have to implement anything actually on-prem either. You can implement this in phases, leveraging the cloud platform that would be hosted by SAP. So what is actually cloud for analytics? Well, the whole idea about cloud for analytics is you get all the capabilities in one product, which include the way you think about business. So it's not just business intelligence and it's not just planning. It's the two together, which includes the forecasting and the predictive analytics, so that you're not having to leave one product to go to the next to understand about your business and where you're going, but rather you just stay where you are and you natively move around the product. So all the analytics capabilities in one product, providing a consumer-grade user experience. And that means it's just really robust, sitting in the cloud, so you don't have to worry about the infrastructure and technology. You can use this with BPC, either embedded or standalone, and you should expect a high-performance, real-time performance platform. In other words, it should be fast enough and intuitive enough for you to move around and understand what's going on, that you're not thinking about technology, but rather thinking about the data that is being provided to you. So the whole idea here is to plan simpler. The main focus really on cloud analytics for planning is that it's got these three components, which is people-centric, analytics embedded, and future-oriented. And so what that really means is people-centric. It should be simple and easy to create planning models and reports on the fly. I'm going to do that with you as part of the demonstration. You should be able to take action anywhere, anytime, on your desktop or on the go. So the whole idea here is that business doesn't stop. And typically now with our iPhones or mobility coming around, we don't stop when we leave the office either. So the fact that this is a cloud product and it's built on the cloud for the cloud, the whole idea is that you can take action at any point in time. And also, finally, is to align your plans across finance and the business units. And with that, you can have direct integration with BPC. So the concept over here is that BPC typically was an application that was used and governed by finance. It still should be and will be the case. Cloud for Analytics will allow you to extend those capabilities and the security with the financial intelligence beyond finance, also to the line of business. Analytics embedded is to say that you should be able to analyze and plan in the same application and not move from one to the next. So not be in BPC and then have to go to business objects per se, but rather you should be in one product and not leave it to be able to fulfill what you're looking for. You should be able to create your personalized own key performance indicators and dashboard, which you can see over here as I'm on my home screen. Everybody has their own personalized dashboard that they can create based on the reports they get and that. And you can collaborate in context with your plan. What that means is that if you want to interact with other people within an organization, you can actually share a report or a diagram or a chart, and it will maintain its context when you send it over to somebody else. And you can see over here in the top right-hand corner, there are 26 events that someone has sent to me to look at. So that's where I'd look at those to see someone is actually collaborating with me. And finally, it's future-oriented. What that means is it's a brand new generation. It's a product that is being built in the cloud. It's got a modern look and feel about it, and it's well accepted by the newer generation. It's planned to simulate. It's planned. The whole idea is that you can plan and you can simulate the plan at any level with any number of users. So with BPC, typically, it's very good at doing a bottom-up. With Cloud for Analytics, it's also great in doing a top-down, and that's because it's leveraging the HANA engine. And the whole concept over here being future-oriented is that you should be able to trust your application. Just like when you use your app on your phone or your iPad, you should also be able to trust this application that is providing to you what you're looking for at the same time that you're asking for it. So how do you know which platform to choose? And we've put this diagram together to really help you understand what's available. And so starting at this top left-hand corner over here, if you are already, or you're going to be putting in place an SAP, a strong SAP footprint. So for example, you're going to be running S4HANA, or you're already running ECC, and you've got BW, etc. You already have a significant SAP footprint. You then need to ask yourself, do I have a footprint or not? If the answer is no, then you may prefer a cloud option. But if you don't prefer a cloud option, you can always run BPC on Microsoft. Nothing wrong with the product. It's still being enhanced, and we're expecting a 10.2 coming out in the not too distant future. If you do prefer a cloud option, you can always look at the software as a service option, which would be either Cloud for Analytics, or we provide the service where you can actually run BPC hosted for you. So again, you don't have that the problem of technology and infrastructure and additional IT support. We'll take care of that for you. You can actually just have it running on the cloud or on a hosted environment. So you get two options over here. If you prefer software as a service, then you can go with the cloud. If you don't and you want to actually purchase the software but don't want the infrastructure, we can certainly provide that for you. If I do have a significant SAP footprint, then I still need to ask myself, do I prefer the cloud? If the answer is no, I probably want to go with BPC running on NetWeaver. If I already have S4HANA for finance, I may also consider BPC optimized for S4HANA, which is an embedding of the BPC functionality into the S4HANA platform. But if I do prefer a cloud option, and I do prefer software as a service, cloud analytics is the way to go. If I still, again, don't want software as a service, I can still go for BPC NetWeaver and use that as a hosted environment. So either way, BPC or cloud is a good way to go. But cloud is great for software as a service. And what's really good about that is because of software as a service, it's an expensed item, and so typically easier to afford. So how does it integrate with BPC? So BPC really is very, very strong in business planning and consolidation. That's really what it's built for. It does the planning processes, whether it be the operational plan, whether it be the forecasting, monthly or annually, quarterly. It does strategic planning, and it does consolidation. It does all those things very well, including salary planning by headcount, by person, as well as CapEx planning for new acquisitions to calculate depreciation, etc. So very, very strong, robust, proven engine that either runs using SQL Server or running on NetWeaver using BW. So that's typically owned by finance. It's surfaced through Excel, and I'm going to be demoing a little bit about that today because I want to show how that interacts with cloud analytics on the cloud. The whole idea about cloud analytics, however, on the right-hand side here, we can see is that cloud analytics can be used either for analytics on top of BPC because it integrates so natively, or it can be used as an additional planning solution, pulling parts of the model, not the whole model necessarily, but you can pull parts of the model out to the cloud. And so you can have your lines of business with their own model, with their own specific drivers, with their own specific interfaces, using a web interface to do their planning, and then you can push those numbers back to BPC. And that's what I want to show you in the demonstration today. We're going to actually create a model in the cloud directly from BPC. We're going to enter some numbers, and we're going to submit them back to the cloud, which will then also push them back to BPC. So it's that whole process that I want to talk about there in the demonstration. But really the idea is that you can have strategic business units or lines of business creating their own model on the fly, doing the data collection and calculations, doing their own analytics for that matter, and then integrating that back with BPC as your corporate solution. You don't have to have BPC to use Cloud Analytics, nor do you have to have Cloud Analytics, of course, to use BPC. But this is talking about how you can extend BPC off into the cloud. So I just want to give you some business case scenarios of why people may want to look at the cloud. And part of it is I may prefer a cloud versus on-premise solution. Now, cloud could also mean hosted. So if it is hosted, that could be BPC. But if you're really looking for software as a service, the cloud is a good option to not have an on-premise solution. And that's the case study I'm going to talk about just after this. The other idea is that if you leverage the HANA platform, Cloud for Analytics is a great tool that sits and integrates with HANA. And I'll show you that as part of when we go into the product. You can actually integrate with HANA as a great BI tool, which gives enormous flexibility. So HANA is a good other option. The other one is if you have lines of businesses who want to build their own models that don't comply with your existing BPC models. This allows people to integrate their line of business unique models back with BPC. Also, if you have an international user community, currently with BPC, when you need to enter data, because the application is surfaced through Excel, there is also a BPC add-in, and that has to be loaded as part of your Excel. If you've got an international community, sometimes it can be a difficult thing to do. So you could actually use Cloud for Planning as a data collection tool, which is just browser-based, and so there's nothing to roll out to anybody, just a URL. And they can enter the numbers directly in the cloud, and then you can push those back into BPC. So an easier way to collect data from your worldwide operations, especially where there's poor internet connections. Because it's a cloud, there's very little bandwidth that's required. And so that's becoming now a new option available to folk on BPC. And ultimately, generational acceptance. So I've been doing this, as Gary mentioned, for 25 odd years. When I grew up, it was all about working in Excel. And Excel still, from what we can see, is what I'm going to say the English language of business. In other words, if you're in finance, typically, you still live, breathe, and work in Excel. But the new generation that are coming out of colleges nowadays still know Excel, but they're also very comfortable in not using Excel. And so the generational acceptance of folk entering their budgets, forecast planning, or even doing analytics, not using Excel would be totally acceptable. And so, again, I'm going to mention this in my case study that we're going to talk about in a moment. So the real-world case study, it was a bank in North Carolina. It's a bank with a difference. When this bank decided to start up, it was a new startup, and they decided to focus on lending money to particular verticals, business verticals. And so they were very focused on providing what the business verticals wanted as from a lending standpoint. And they made it very easy to get it. You can literally apply on the web. And because they focused on verticals, they've got very specific criteria that you need to fill in that makes sense to those verticals. And so the numbers are really available from the business owners who are applying for the loans, and they enter them on the web and they get approved, literally on the web. It's a self-service kind of loan, if you would. So the interesting thing about them is that they grew very, very quickly, and they began using Excel for their budgeting process, which is very common. From there, they went to Excel with Access, again, very common. And once they had outgrown that, they said that they needed to get a robust planning and reporting tool. And so they started looking on the market. They came across SAP's Cloud for Analytics, and they loved it because it met the criteria that they were looking for. They were looking to leverage current technology, not old or traditional or readily acceptable. They wanted the current technology, which of course is cloud. They wanted to improve collaboration and interaction of the business users when they put the numbers together. So instead of sending emails or making phone calls, the whole idea here is that they could actually IM each other within the tool in order to collaborate on getting the numbers. And so collaboration was easily facilitated. Greater transparency meant that the ability to look at analytics and charts and graphs and then drill down and change them really easily was provided very well through Cloud for Analytics. And ultimately, they wanted to empower the business. So providing that transparency and that collaboration and that ease of use, there was to empower the business. In this particular instance, it's the first time I've heard this, but in this particular instance, the CEO of the bank said to the financial manager who was looking for the software, he said, "I do not want to use Excel. I want to use current technology." And so any technology that leveraged Excel per se as the interface, they said they weren't interested in looking at. They were looking at something new and exciting. And so that was Cloud Analytics. So the whole idea here was that they built everything on the cloud. Of course, it is a BPC lives on the cloud. And they were able to leverage the power of HANA. So just like a lot of folk are looking at HANA, especially if you're an SAP, an existing SAP customer, you may be looking at utilizing HANA, but it may be cost prohibitive. This lets you leverage the HANA platform without having to kind of purchase HANA. You can actually just use it as a software as a service. And for this bank, the huge big thing for them was that not only did it provide all those opportunities that they were looking for, but it provided in one application, they got their planning and analytics. And so that worked very, very well for them. So I'm now going to drop out of PowerPoint. I'm going to drop in to do a presentation for you. And what we're going to do is we are going to link Cloud Analytics. We're going to build a model that I'm going to build it with you right now off of BPC. So the assumption I've made over here is that the folk who are on the call already know BPC. I could easily build this report for you. But this is, you can see I've logged on to BPC. I'm in my new EPM window pane. Ribbon over here. You can see I'm logged on already because this is logged off, so it just toggles. And I've built a report over here looking at the 2014 data, Q1 through Q14, I'm looking at South Africa plan data, and I'm looking at my travel and advertising expenses. So these two accounts over here are what I want to change in Cloud for Analytics for planning. And I made a copy of these numbers and put them over here. You can see it's just it was a copy paste values so that these numbers won't change. So if I look at my report, you can see that this is a dynamic report linked back to BPC, and these rows over here are just native Excel. So what I want to do now is I want to take this model, which you can see these are the dimensions up over here. I want to take this model and I want to move it up to the cloud, and then I want to change the numbers in travel and entertainment, and I want to change numbers in advertising and promotion, and then I want to send them back to this same model and then refresh this report and see if these numbers change. So you can see I'm sitting over here. I'm sitting on NetWeaver 10.1. My environment is called App Shell Test, and my model is called Planning. So that being said, what I'm going to do over here now is I'm going to open up my browser. I'm going to Google, Chrome, and I'm going to log on to the cloud. Ask me for my username and password. I say log in. The security over here is set up very, very similar to that of BPC, which is no surprise. So you can set it up according to who has access to which part of the model. So do I want to see all my cost centers, just some of them, or all my products, or just some of them? And what can I do? Can I create reports? Can I update numbers? Can I just consume data that have been provided there for me? So when I log on to Cloud for Analytics, what it does is it opens me up on my home screen. You can see my home screen over here is live and dynamic. All these charts over here built for me when I opened, and I put them over here as the things I want to monitor when I look at my application at first glance. So this is a dashboard, if you would, that I've created and I can move and create. When I hit these three lines over here, I want to go into my modeler. So before I go into there, just to give you a quick overview of the environment, here's my home screen, which is what we're currently looking at. This is where I build my models and my dimensions, same as what you would have as the administrative client within BPC. Over here, I can build reports and stories. Stories are really what finance is all about. They look at the data and they come up with a story about what's happening within the company. And you can do stories using either charts or graphical objects or tables, or which is like spreadsheets. Also notice over here, I've got the digital boardroom. This is that top layer we spoke about earlier about delivering information to my senior executive, where they can drill down to minutiae if they wanted to understand how a number was made up. So without going into too much of those, what I want to do is I want to go to my modeler, because what I want to create over here is a new model that is going to link to BPC. So I'm going to do this with you on the fly. So I'm going to build a new model, and notice over here I can start with a blank model. I can import it using a flat file. I can go against BPC. I can go against HANA. I can go against live data connections like ODBC. I can go against Google Drive, etc. So notice that all these are different data sources, and SAP are going to be adding to these. So I'm going to go against BPC. The first thing it does is it asks me is, well, which BPC system do I want to pull from? So I set up a HANA connector over here, and I'm going to go against BPC 10. And as soon as I do that, it brings me back a list of all the environments I could choose from. So we were going to use App Shell Test, and I want to go against the planning model. So you may remember that from the Excel report. Remember here we App Shell Test against the planning model, and I want you to remember in 2014 there's $718,000, and then there was $50,000 over here for advertising and promotion. So let's just go back over here. So I'm going to build a model name. Let's just call it webinar, and my description will be BPC extension. Now, I can notice it's planning enabled. That means I'm allowed to write data back to this model. I can make it read-only. In other words, if I check this box, it makes it read-only. And that means I could use this model only for analytics. I also need to do a mapping, which is to map my data, how my data is going to come from BPC into Cloud Analytics. So I'll go into map data, and you'll notice over here my dimensions that I have listed on the left-hand side. These are what reside in BPC, and on the right-hand side is the name of the dimension it's going to create for me dynamically in the cloud. I can change these names if I want to, if I don't like those names. Notice I've also got account types, very similar to what we have within BPC. So I want to bring just the plan data over, not all the values. So currently in BPC, there's actual budget rates, etc. I really just want to bring my plan data over. So that's what I'm going to say in my selection. When I bring over my plan, which category do I want to bring it into in Cloud Analytics? I want to bring it into my planning category, and I'm going to leave it in my plan version. So the notion we have over here, a little bit different about BPC, is you can have planning data, and here is where you call it plan 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In BPC, typically we had a category we call plan 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as different snapshots of the budget. So slight difference there. The other thing I want to do is I want to bring over South Africa, because that was the data that I really want to plan in. So I'm going to get the selection. Let me see if I can type it over here and see if there's South Africa. There's South Africa. I'm going to just choose that and say OK. And the time I want to bring over is, I don't want to bring over the data for all the time. All I want to bring over is 2014. So I could type in the number over here, or I could just select 2014. Notice I could also select more granular data if I want to, but I want to bring over the whole year. So now I've done all that mapping. I can say map my data, and I can say import. So the first thing that Cloud Analytics does is it links back to BPC, and it brings over the standard dimensions that exist within BPC. And you can see it building it as it turns up over here. So it's already built the model for me, pulling over all the master data. So you can see over here that I'm looking at my time and category dimension. I'm going to hold monthly data. I was going to build from 2006 January to December 2017, because that's what I had defined in BPC, and what level of granularity I'm going to be holding. So my planning data, I'm going to hold monthly data. If I go and look at these account dimensions, or at the other dimensions, that is to say, I'm going to click on account over there, and it should switch over. Just change this view. And I want to make this into all accounts. And the only reason I do that is it shows you on the left-hand side over here, the table view like you're used to seeing in BPC, but it also shows you a hierarchical view. And these are all able to be moved around and dragged and dropped if I wanted to. So by looking at these, I can look at my various dimensions and notice it's brought over my currency, it's brought over my ROAS, it's brought over my descriptions, it's even brought over who my intercompany trading should be with. And again, I can drag and drop these if I wanted to. So it's built my model for me as I want it, and everything looks fine. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save my model. As soon as I save my model, it now writes that data back on the cloud, and now it can import the data, because now it knows where to import the data into. So it's going back, looking at the filters, doing a select of the data sitting in BPC, and it's going to import the data now into the cube. So it's pulled over 108 values. So now I have, if I scroll down to the bottom, here's my cube. It's called webinar. It's called BPC extension. I hope you can see that at the bottom there. And that's all done. It's got the data in it. Just to mention over here, right at the bottom, it's got resources. And see over here, it's told me that I've got processes that I can run. So if I want to automate that update, that load, I can actually schedule once, or I can schedule repeating times how often I want to update the model from BPC into Cloud Analytics as a scheduled process. Right, so now we've got our model built. What I'd like to do is I'd like to go and build a story, because in that story, I want to look at the data that's been pulled up. So let's go ahead and build this again with you. So I'm going to create a new one. And this title of the story we're going to call BPC extension, and we'll just put a BPC space extension. Oops, extension. So when it builds a story, it says, would you like to import data? Would you like to add a canvas, which means you want to kind of create a layout of the tables and charts like a dashboard? Or would you like to work with a grid, which is what I want to do? So that's what I'm choosing. So it creates a grid for me. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put a report on this grid. So I'm going to hit this little plus sign. And it says, do you want to use an existing model or use a template? I want to use an existing model. So the name of the existing model is webinar. And I'll say, okay. And so what Cloud Analytics does is it assumes running down I want accounts, running across I want my categories with my version. So you can see here planning with my plan version. And if I look on the right-hand side over here for rows, I've got accounts. For columns, I've got categories. And I'm looking at my periodic data. Now, I can modify this and work with this as I want to right away. This is live, just like it would be within BPC within Excel. So I'm going to open up my indirect expenses. And here you can see I've got my travel expenses, which is that's $17,000, and I got my advertising and promotion, which is my $50,000, which is what we saw in BPC. So I'm just trying to make this a bit bigger so that we can see the full description come out there. So the next thing I really want to look at is I want to look at this for 2014 and in the quarters. So what I want to do is I want to add a dimension over here as my column, and I'm going to go down and choose time. And once I've chosen time, I can filter it by member, for example. I can also look at a range. So I can have a dynamic range set up that I don't have to modify the template every time I look at it. It could be looking at current month -2 and +2, and it knows what current month is. And that way, you don't have to keep rebuilding the report. Another notion over here that they've come up with, which is I'm looking at unbooked data. In other words, I'm only seeing the members where there are numbers. If I open that up, because I only brought over 2014 data, it only shows me the members because those are the ones I'm going to be using. If I looked at unbooked data on, now I'm looking at all the members are available to me on my application because I may want to enter numbers where I don't have numbers yet. So I've got book data or data that's been loaded only is what's being shown over here. So let me go ahead and select that. And I want to look, here's my 2014. If I open it up, I'm now looking at my 4 quarters. So I'm now in Cloud Analytics, and this is a live report. So what I want to do is I want to just bring back my Excel sheet and just compare these numbers. So we've got our travel entertainment. Travel entertainment is $718,000, which is sitting over here. My advertising promotion is $50,000, which is sitting over here. So this is the hard copy, and this is the one that's going to change. Right, so let's just get that out the way again. So now I want to make some modifications. Well, what I can do is I can say, we've been given an increase. We don't have $50,000 to spend on advertising and promotion anymore. I now actually could spend $100,000. So I could actually type in $100,000. And when I do that, it's going to take my total year value. It's going to spread it down to my quarters, which in turn will spread it down to the months in the same proportion that they currently exist. In other words, since I've just doubled this top number, I'm expecting that 8,000 to go to 16 and this 21 to go to 42. So let's go ahead and enter that number there. And so Cloud Analytics automatically does the spread based on the hierarchy and based on the population of the values within that hierarchy. And so you can see I've got 16,042, just as I predicted, that these quarters now rolling up make up the number. So if I open up Q1, here are the months as to how the numbers were spread. Now, it didn't just do it for the quarters, it also did it for every product. It also did it for the data source that I happen to be in. It also happened to do it for the company and the cost center. It did it down all the other hierarchies to do that spread top down. It natively comes with that functionality. Okay, so that's the first thing we need to remember is advertising and promotion is now $100,000. The other thing I may want to do is I may want to modify my travel and entertainment. This number over here looks high, and so I'm going to modify, but I know maybe it's necessary. Maybe I've got a lot of year-end functions I need to be doing for travel and entertainment. And so I want to keep that number. I can actually lock that number. By locking that number will now not change. And let's just say now I change this to $750,000. When I make that change, notice it spreads those values down to these other 3 quarters, but not that 4th quarter because it's maintained it. But if I now add up these 4 quarters, it'll now equal that 750. And Cloud Analytics also shows me that, by the way, because I changed those numbers, these numbers also changed, and it's actually impacted all of those other numbers. So I can see which numbers have changed. I'm now going to unlock that. You'll notice the icon over here is unlocked. If it's gray, it shows it's locked. All right, so now I've got a $750,000 travel and entertainment, and I've got a $100,000 advertising promotion. I'm now finished with my plan. And what I want to do now is I want to publish this because it's my, what we call a private version. So only I could modify those numbers. When I'm finished with them, I can make them available for other people to consume. And I want to publish it to my plan. So I'll say, okay. And now that becomes read-only for me. In other words, because I've made it a public version, no one can change the data anymore unless I recreate a copy of this as a private version that I can modify. So it's a slightly different concept than that of BPC, but in fact, we do that by taking snapshots within BPC. This just natively does it for you. All right, so we've got our numbers, and I've published them. I'm finished with my changes. So what I want to do now is I want to submit this data back to BPC. So I'm going to pop back over here to my modeler. Yes, I want to leave this page. I hadn't saved the orientation, so it's just asking me, do I want to save that orientation? I probably should have said yes. But what I want to do now is I want to take data and I want to export my data back to BPC. So this icon over here says import data. If I want to reload the data from BPC in to Cloud Analytics, maybe I made a mistake or there were some changes made, adjustments, and I needed those back in my plan, I can re-import the data. In this case, I want to export the data. So I'm going to export data to BPC. And it's going to say, well, which model do you want to export? Well, I'm in webinars, so that's why I checked that first down over here. So it shows that for me. The description is BPC extension. It's going to say, well, which model do you want to send back to? So I'm going to choose it again. I want to go against my connector. I want to go against app shell test and go back to my planning model where I pulled the data from in the first place. I could, as you can see, push this back to a different model if I wanted to. Because I'm now pushing the data and not pulling it, I've got to reset up that mapping. Well, I've got to redefine what I want to send back. So I'm going to go to edit mapping. And I am going to send back from a category perspective. I'm going to click on the funnel. I want to send back my planning data. And I need to map it to a category in BPC. And so it's going to send my plan data coming from Cloud Analytics, and I'm going to load it back to, when I click this funnel over here, it actually goes back to BPC to bring back the list of members that exist. I'm going to load it back to plan. So again, I could have sent that back to a different category. So, okay. The entity I want to load back to is going to be South Africa. So again, I can clear all my selections and I choose, I look up over here and I go to, whoop, that's not going to find it for me, South Africa. It's looking at, my description is correct. Let me look down and see what's going on over here. Africa, here's South Africa. I expected that to find it. So there's South Africa there. And I'm going to load back my 2014 data. It'll load back all the years, right? And I just want to load back 2014. And I say map my data is done, and now I'm going to export my data back to BPC. Right, it's loaded back 108 records. So let's minimize this, and let's open up the Excel report. So here's my Excel report, and this is the moment of reckoning. I'm going to say refresh. And here you can see this change to $750,000. And here's my $100,000, which has been modified as we expected. That was locked, remember, at $290,000. And here are my numbers that were originally there, that when I originally pulled my report. And so you can see that interaction between BPC and Cloud Analytics is very simple and easy to do. And although there is some thought that you may need to put ahead of time for that, it's really not a complicated process, and SAP have done a very good job in putting it all together. So in summary, 7 key points to take home. First one is Cloud Analytics is built in the cloud for the cloud. Very important. It's not a pretend migration. It's not leveraging old technology. It is literally built in the cloud for the cloud. And so gets cloud updates. Actually, currently we get an update on functionality every 2 weeks in Cloud Analytics, which is what you would expect in the cloud. And the goal is they want to get that down to every week. And but currently it's every 2 weeks. So it's built in the cloud for the cloud. It also leverages the power of HANA. And so you can see we did a top-down, we can do a bottom-up. It's fast, it's easy, and it can work with large volumes of data. It's a platform for the related process. So you can look at analytics, you can look at planning. It will be exploiting predictive, but it's a platform that pulls all these processes together that relate to each other. So you're not moving in and out of different a planning application and an analytics application, then a predictive application. You're literally going to sit in one platform and think about the business as the business, and just natively and naturally from analytics into planning. And then ultimately, you can integrate your technical environment. So whether you've got a standalone or you want to do a hybrid, or however you want to do this, you can do all these things very, very easily to deploy it as makes sense for you. Ultimately, the reports tell a business story, and that business story is there for consumption of business users throughout the company. There are regular updates in the cloud. I already mentioned that. Currently, it's every 2 weeks, and so sometimes keeping up with the enhancements is pretty tough. There is a great help that comes with the software. Each release is actually annotated out, so you can keep up with it. And there is both a public and a private cloud offering. The default is public, which means you share the server, but it's still safe and secure just for your data. So it's multi-tenant, if you would. And the private cloud is literally your own server, which is a little bit more pricey. So those are 7 points to take away. And as Gary mentioned, we wanted to give some time at the end of the presentation in case you had some questions. There is about 10 minutes left. And so your turn. I'll turn it over to you, Gary.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks for the presentation and the demonstration today. And again, we thank all of you who attended and had a chance to listen in. That this is your opportunity to ask any questions that you may have. So question spot is open. We'll look for you to raise your hand if you want to speak to it, or go ahead and feel free to put any type of Q&A in the Q&A section where we showed you up in that participants box on the right-hand side. So have both options to do now. We'll give you guys a minute to think through that. And so far, it's quiet on the Q&A side, and I don't see anybody raising their hand. So I think, Greg, with that, we are, there's another slide I'll share with the organization, or with the group, I should say, that comes from Vantagepoint as an offer for those that joined in the webinar today. One of two options here, and that is that we'd love to work with you to migrate a model of yours, your data, build a model. and experience, allow you and your organization to experience the cloud yourself, your version of the cloud with your data. Something that we can do for you, and we'd be glad to work with you to get a chance to experience the product and the software firsthand. The other option is BPC Health Check. It's something that we offer on a regular basis, but it's typically health checks can be extensive. What we've talked about here is doing a fixed time, fixed fee, but doing it at a very economical opportunity to look at your performance. If there's upgrades required, we could look at what that entails and talk through a game plan. We'd be glad to put that together for you in this health check, as well as a readiness for cloud for analytics. So a certain set of hours that we do that we would be coming in and giving some of that time away. So would love to talk to you more about both of those, the migrating your model and allowing you to experience it, as well as the health check opportunity. And as always, we're always welcome any individual conversations. We'd be glad to talk to anybody if they want to have one-on-one conversations with any of our team members, or even the opportunity to talk to some of the clients that have actually moved in this product, moved in this direction. We've got a couple that we're working on currently that are in this hybrid model, and we'd be glad to set up time for you to talk to those clients as well. So thank you again for your time. Greg, thank you for the great presentation today, and for all those that participated, have a wonderful afternoon. Here's our contact information. Feel free to go either Greg or myself an email, or reach out to us at your convenience. You have our contact information. So thank you. Have a wonderful day.